Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to the channel. So today we got some absolutely awesome news from the RPCS3 team. Thanks to contributor WhatCookie, Demon's Souls is now considered fully playable at 60, 120 and practically whatever frame rate you want to set your frame limit to. This was made possible by the recent improvements to RPCS3, including the ability to now edit your VBlank and clock scale in order to unlock the frame rate in many of your games. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do just that for Demon's Souls, as well as show you how unbelievably amazing it runs at 4K 60 frames per second. To do this, we're going to have to jump across to my desktop, so let's move there right now. Okay, so first of all, you're going to need to actually have RPCS3 set up on your system, and you're also going to need to download this patch.yml. You'll find a link for that in this video's description. Next, we're going to run RPCS3, and I'm going to open and configure Demon's Souls. These are the settings I use for this game, however, you might get better performance by changing this preferred SPU threads, and you also need to have this SPU block size set to safe. For this to work, you also need to set your renderer to Vulkan, and in order to correctly render graphics in Demon's Souls on this emulator, you need to enable right color buffers. Once you have all this applied, simply click save in the bottom left hand corner and we're now done with configuration. Next up, you need to right click again and you want to come down to Open Custom Config folder. This should open and highlight a folder just like this. If it doesn't, you're going to simply need to run the Demon's Souls for the first time, then redo what you've just seen me do in the video. All I want to do is now open this folder and you are going to be editing these lines here. So for a clock scale, if you want to run at 60 frames per second, you want to set this to 200. If you want to try running the game at 120 frames per second, you want to set this to 400. 120 frames per second playback is a little bit buggy compared to 60, so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to leave a clock scale at 200 for 60 frames per second. Scrolling down further, you want to find this video section and make sure you're setting this to Vulkan, and you're going to be editing this VBlank rate to 120 if you want to play at 60 frames per second, and again, if you want to play at 120 frames per second, set this VBlank rate to 240. Again, as I said, 120 frames per second playback is a little bit buggy, so I'm going to set this to 120, come to File, Save, and close these folders since I'm now done with editing this config file. Next, I'm going to minimize RPCS3, and if you don't already have a patch.yml for other games, you are going to be dragging and dropping the patch.yml which I've provided in this video into this folder. Since I already have a patch.yml for using mods and different patches for Persona 5, Uncharted and The Last of Us, I'm simply going to open mine, then open the patch.yml I've provided in this video, highlight and copy the text like so. Once copied, I want to come back to my existing patch.yml, and into this bottom field here, I'm simply going to paste all of this data. As you can see, this data is now entered here. You can see this is the 60 frames per second patch created by WhatCookie, and you can see that these are the two versions of the game which are supported by this patch. Now, depending on what frame rate you're going to be playing the game at, there are some edits you're going to need to make to this patch. In its stock configuration, it is set up for 60 frames per second gameplay. However, if you want to play at 120, this is what you need to do. You're going to need to delete the pound or hash key in front of the 120 FPS line, and similarly, if this is your game version, you want to do the exact same thing for this. Remember that if you want to play at 120 frames per second, you need to replace this pound key on this line in front of 60 frames per second. As I said, I'm going to be demonstrating a 4K 60 frames per second gameplay, so this is how I'm going to have my patch file set up. I'm now done with configuring this patch. Let's simply click File in the top left hand corner, click Save, and we're now basically done with the complete setup of 60 frames per second playback in Demon's Souls. All that now remains to be done is simply run the game, build my SPU cache, and actually get into some gameplay. Just before the game launches, I want to make you aware of some bugs that are currently present in this 60 frames per second patch. One is the fact that the intro video is going to pretty much freeze straight away while the audio will stay playing, and as you can see right here on the title screen, the background video image has stopped playing. However, we still have control over these menus. Gameplay wise though, it seems to work absolutely flawlessly. As you can see, I am running at a perfectly locked 60 frames per second. Demon's Souls, being a very light game on RPCS3, should run at very high frame rates for many people, which is absolutely awesome because, in my opinion at least, Demon's Souls is one of the best games in the entirety of the Souls franchise, and now having the ability to play it back at a full 60 frames per second and at crazy high resolutions of 4K is going to be absolutely amazing for everyone that uses this emulator. As I announced in my last video, in which we took a look at Persona 5, where it is now running at a perfectly locked 60 frames per second absolutely everywhere in the game, I am also going to be fully remaking and releasing a new setup guide for RPCS 3 in the next week or so please keep your eyes peeled on the channel for that. On top of that, if there are any games that you would like to see me test in respect to this kind of framerate unlimiting, please let me know down below this video in a comment, and as always, if I have access to that game or if I can pick it up for cheap, I'll test it out for you absolutely no problem and include it in one of my upcoming compatibility guides for RPCS 3. Before I go, I want to give another big thank you to all of my supporters over on patreon.com. If any of you guys out there want to help with the day-to-day running of my YouTube channel, please consider heading to the link in this video's description and pledging to support the channel. These pledges or donations help to pay for things like electricity bills, internet bills, games for testing, and absolutely everything else required for the day-to-day running of a channel like this. So to all past, present, and future supporters, thank you very much. Down in the description, you will also find a link to the Patreon fund for RPCS 3, so if you would like to help with the development of this awesome PlayStation 3 emulator, please also consider heading over there and supporting them. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to be leaving you with some absolutely amazingly fluid 4K 60 frames per second Demon Souls gameplay running on the latest master build of RPCS 3. If you liked this video and guide, please remember to hit the subscribe button down below and click the bell icon to get notified of all of my new video uploads. Please also remember to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Doing so massively helps with the visibility of this video and my YouTube channel as a whole. Once again guys, thank you very much for watching, have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.